Welcome to the Iron Breed podcast. This is Austin, and here with me again today is Gerard. How we doing?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing good. We're back today. We're going to talk about nutrition. So this is kind of follow up our training podcast that we did last week. Hope you guys like that. We're going to talk a little bit. I know we kind of previewed some of the things that we're going to talk about today. And we'll talk about that. We've also had some other really cool ideas as well too that, obviously with time we find more stuff that we want to talk about, which is good and bad because, we don't want to talk forever, but at the same time, there's so much like good ideas and content that we have to like talk to you. But that just means that we'll have more episodes to make, which is great. So as long as you keep listening, I mean, even if you don't listen, we're going to keep making them because we like them. And I think we're putting a lot of good stuff out there. So once again, though, if you ever have any suggestions, anything that you like, anything that you feel like we missed, or that you'd like to hear us talk about more, please let us know. And, you can reach us on Instagram at Iron Breed Performance. That's our account page, but you can also find me at the Zekman, at the _Zekman. And Gerard is our French man at Gerard Letendre.
Yeah, that's going to be GerardLetendre. You'll see a big red beard on the profile, Gerard Letendre.
And so
that's going to be a thing, man. That's going to become like a podcast thing every time I drop the Instagram.
I know it will. I know. I'm pretty sure that we need 5 podcasts to get on Apple and Spotify, so that's why we're trying to crank all these out. Maybe we'll be on there before that, but if not, this is episode 3, and we're on our way. We see you, iTunes. We see you, Spotify. We're coming for you. So
coming for you.
we are coming for you. So following up on our training podcast, the question last week was relative to training. It's what different training styles have we tried? What were the results that we got? What were some of the things that we've done? What do we think about that? The good, the bad? And then once again, now it's referring to the diets. So it's the same stuff, but diets. So what diets, different diet nutritional strategies have we tried? What did we like about it? What did we not like? What results did we get? Anything like that. So this is going to be a fun one. This is going to be fun. There's a lot of stuff, and I'm a nutrition guy, so I love to talk about this stuff. So Gerard's going to have to shut me up a lot because I'm just going to get off. But that's just how it's going to be. So Gerard, why don't you start? Because I know once I start talking, it's just not going to end. So go ahead.
Absolutely. So we're going to get into some nutrition protocols and, ways that we address them for our training in the earlier days of powerlifting, stuff we liked, disliked. But I think once again, we mentioned it in the training, and it is so true for so many things. There is no one best diet. There is no cookie cutter diet. There is no one size fits all. You've really got to address what are your goals, what are you trying to do, and then start to base a plan off of that. And so a lot of that comes from knowing yourself, because so many individuals will get, recommendations for diet, and especially mainstream. But when we talk about diet, we're really talking about just like the quality of food intake that you are consuming and what you are trying to get out of it. So if you're an athlete, it's obviously going to be sports performance. If you're trying to lose weight for a bodybuilding competition, you may do it a whole different way than if you're, working a desk job and you want to lose 20 pounds. Like, there's going to be varying degrees of level and intensity that you can get into with your nutrition. I know personally for me, nutrition has always been the factor in my training that has lagged the most. It's the one that I'm still always trying to find more information, stuff that I can research. I got 4 books sitting in front of me right now. Austin, right before we started this, he said, you want to know where the books are? Up here. And like, he is so true from that, for saying that, because it really is, this guy has taken the time to delve in, to do his research, to really become a student, and it shows, man. And so it's been an evolution as we've gone on with our training.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that I did try in the earlier days were macro counting. So for those who don't know, macronutrients, your protein, carbs, and fats based on the calories per gram, and just whether it was measuring them out or actually using nutritional labels to try and factor out. And that was, I think a lot of my earlier days of failing was also due to lack of discipline. And a lot of that,
it kills everybody.
A big part. That's why diets fail. That's why diets are, you have fad diets, you have things that, mainstream diets. So, I really only did one mainstream diet, and that was the ketogenic diet. And that really kind of became super popular, seemed around like 2016 through 18. It's still, really talked about and gone on. And for some individuals, fantastic diet. And Austin will allude a little more to those types of individuals. What I found from it is I noticed the carb depletion. I noticed it in my weight training. I noticed it just in my all-around mood and how I went about. So, Austin, why don't we go into this? Give them a little idea of what the ketogenic diet is.
Yeah. So, first of all, let me just preface that we're not doctors or medical professionals. I mean, I am very well versed in my nutrition and training stuff, right? But, I'm not a registered dietitian. So, with that being said, just keep that in mind. Ketogenic diets, they have their place for certain people. Not everybody is going to benefit from that. So, if you're just like a casual, you're not really training for anything, and you want to try it out. Yeah, give it a shot. See what happens. You might like it. Some people enjoy eating fatty foods more so than they do eating carbs. So for you, it works out relatively well. One of the biggest drawbacks with keto sometimes is that I hear a lot of people that are eating keto diets and they tell me about how they're eating fruits and it keeps them under a certain, I was like, oh, hell no, it doesn't. It's carbs. And they're like, yeah, but the fiber. I was like, yeah, well, you can't straight up eat a banana and still be keto. That's just not how this shit works. So
yeah. For those who haven't tried keto, it is where you're completely cutting out carbohydrates from your nutrition. Your main sources are protein,
or at least like up to like 50 grams. It's going to vary per the person, but really kind of what happens is when you're trying to go keto is you're getting to a point where a lot of people experience a lot of initial weight loss after they start doing keto. And really what that is that's actually your muscles losing their glycogen. So glycogen is stored carbohydrates inside of your muscles. So obviously when you have more carbs, you're going to feel full because your muscles are going to be full. But when you're like lower on carbs, you're going to feel flat because your muscles aren't as full with glycogen, right? So with that being said, glycogen and water are both stored in your muscles. So when there's less glycogen, there's going to be less water stored there as well, vice versa. So when you go keto, you're not eating any carbohydrates. So you're trying to shift your body's fuel source. So what eventually ultimately ends up happening is you're shifting away from using carbohydrates for fuel and you're trying to utilize fats. Now, keep in mind, though, that organs like the brain, which is the most important organ in the body. I mean, they're all really, really important, but I feel like the brain is probably the most if I had to pick one, right? And that requires carbohydrates for fuel. It needs like glucose to run. That is its fuel source. So what the body does is it breaks down, it goes through this process of gluconeogenesis. So what it does is it actually creates like carbs, sugars from fats. So it does so by breaking down fats and creating ketones. And these ketones are then created into sugars that can be used by the brain. So to say that you're not using any carbs is not completely true because your body creates carbs specifically for this situation. However, on the flip side, if you eat too much protein in a ketogenic diet, your body's going to do the exact same thing. So obviously there's a certain limit of protein that you can eat because if you eat too much, your body's going to convert that into carbohydrates and there goes your ketosis. So maintaining ketosis is staying under a certain level where your body essentially has to keep producing that ketones for fuel. This is great for someone like type 1 diabetics, right? Now, I know a good amount of type 1 diabetics that run keto year round. And now, look, if you're type 1 diabetic, I'm not telling you to do this, right? talk to your doctor or talk to a registered dietitian. But I'm purely saying that I know a good amount of type 1 diabetics that run keto diets, so that way they don't have to keep using so much insulin. And that works out really well for them, and they've really liked it. But I also know a bunch of type 1 diabetics that don't do that either. So definitely something to consult with your doctor if that's something you're looking for. Now, that's not to say like it's not a great option for some people. I mean, some people might respond really well to a keto diet. They might, and that might be their method of doing it. I don't know. But if you're a strength sport athlete, really there's no practical application for you to really be doing keto because your body needs carbohydrates to fuel your athletic performance in the gym. So, and even like on a recovery standpoint. So it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you're like pretty serious about your, athletic pursuits to try a keto diet on your end. I've never done a keto diet for that exact same reason. I've written many reports about keto diets. So that's how I feel comfortable talking about that and saying, look, like, if you were trying to pursue these athletic endeavors, that it's probably not the best for you. Now, granted, yeah, I mean, there's research studies that show like elite level gymnastics, these people doing it and not experiencing a drop off in their performance or a significant drop off. But these are also elite level athletes too. So, take that for what it is. And it was a super small sample size. It was 8 people. So really hard to.
Yeah. I've seen a few with ultra endurance and marathon runners doing the same thing and converting over on some comparable research. And I think a lot of it boils back down to is just that it's based on the individual. And then when we see a lot of what a lot of people's initial benefits from the ketogenic diet is they are restricting their carbohydrate intake. They're maybe not completely depleting it, but because of due to that lack or not having an excess amount of carbs, it's not getting stored as adipose tissue. So they're noticing they are losing weight. They're noticing that, like if they're eating massive amounts of carbs throughout the day, which we look at what a lot of people consumes, it is predominantly carb heavy. Now, maybe the carb sources that they do have that are stored are actually being put towards energy expenditure rather than getting stored on the body as body fat.
Yeah, like generally speaking, if I was going to do a keto diet and you have 50 grams of carbs, roughly speaking, it varies per the individual and like your body weight and stuff like that. If I were doing a ketogenic diet, I would time my carbohydrates around my training. But like that would be like all 50 grams. But that's just, I generally believe in timing your carbohydrates around your training in general, no matter what diet you're following.
Exactly.
But that's my thing. Nutrient timing to me is huge. But with that being said, if I were doing a keto diet, that's how I would do it. I would probably operate along those guidelines. Similarly though, I mean, obviously vegetables are technically considered carbohydrates. They're very fibrous, and a lot of times people don't count fiber as carbs because generally they're soluble and insoluble fiber. So soluble, your body's going to use a little bit more. Insoluble, your body's just going to pass through. So that's why people don't really count it as carbs. And that's why you look at Quest bars, right? And it'd be like 2 grams of net carbs. It's because it's got all that fiber, and your body's supposedly doesn't use that like a carb, but it still kind of treats it like a carb when it's coming in. So, just something to consider. Quest bars are solid though. I mean, I like 1 bars more. Sorry. That's my personal preference.
We can have a whole episode on that, on just supplements, types of food that we can talk about that for hours.
So, but if you're keto and you're like getting carbs out of anything, it should probably be vegetables. I would avoid the fruits, anything that's going to be super high in the glycemic index, which glycemic index, if you're not familiar, is how quickly something elevates your blood sugar after consuming it. So something like a sweet potato is going to be much lower than something like a banana. A banana is going to be a lot more rapid, whereas a sweet potato is going to take a lot longer. Like oats, once again, slow digesting. It's going to take a lot longer to get into your bloodstream, and it's not going to spike it as quickly. Whereas like a white potato is going to jack that up real quick.
Or a Snickers bar.
Or a Snickers bar. So one of those things that generally speaking, like if you're going to eat a carb, make sure it's super low glycemic, because something like that would just bump you out of ketosis super fast would be not ideal. But anyway,
Exactly.
So we'll move on from keto. I feel like we've definitely given it more than its fair due there. The other one that I wanted to talk about was kind of like intermittent fasting. Now, I've never directly like done this. I know there's people that like plan out their entire days around their fasts, and they do like longer fasts, and I totally get that. I totally get that. And what really bothers me about intermittent fasting, now, don't get me wrong, like I do it indirectly. There'll be times where like I will not eat for a certain period of time, but that's just because I'm trying to condense the way that I eat my meals. Because with me bodybuilding at this very moment, my meals are a little smaller now and they're a little more restrictive. So sometimes I don't like to stretch my meals out super long. So for me, it's almost a little easier to wait a little longer in the morning, like drink my cup of coffee and wait a little bit longer, and then wait until I'm like hungry. And so then that way I don't have to wait as long in between each meal. So like I indirectly do that. So that way I don't have to wait as long to eat for the rest of my meals. So that way I'm not like, I can handle like going longer in the morning than I can going throughout the day. That's where I struggle, and it sucks for me more. Now with that being said though, some people do it for different reasons. Generally speaking, you see people talking about it being beneficial for growth hormone. With the fasting promoting like growth hormone output. And while yes, that does happen. I hate to be the bearer of bad news and tell you that the amount of growth hormone increase that you're experiencing is not enough to do anything very significant for you. So don't use growth hormone levels as a reason to do intermittent fasting. Generally speaking, why intermittent fasting is really successful for some people at the end of the day is because it condenses your window of eating, because you don't have the discipline or willpower to not eat. So you need to condense that window by fasting. And hey, if that's what it is, like, it's okay. Just be honest. Like sometimes you just really need to just condense it. Like, oh, it's easier for me to I only have 5-6 hours to eat, and you eat your meals. So you're removing extra calories by cutting out a period of time, like an entire window of eating time. Whereas like keto, you're removing calories because you're cutting out an entire macronutrient. So you're cutting out an entire macronutrient. So no shit, you're going to lose weight because you're eating less calories, because you're cutting out an entire macronutrient. Intermittent fasting. Well, no shit, because you're cutting out an entire period of time of eating. So you're not eating instead of not eating for like 10 hours, you're only eating for like 4 or 5 hours. So hypothetically, unless you're like literally going crazy insane during those 4 or 5 hours, you hypothetically would lose weight. So that's my take on that. I don't know if you have any experience with intermittent fasting.
Kind of on the similar ends, where it was never programmed out. It was just something that was an afterthought, really, just like, I've eaten this much amount. I know I really don't need to consume this food to intake more calories. I know I haven't expended them. I think one of just the biggest things that I always failed at, and finally feel like I'm getting a hand of, is the discipline, the consistency with eating. And one thing I think we'll delve into is the cheat day, the cheat meal. A lot of diets program in, whether it's a exact day or amount of time, and that you can fit in some of that quote unquote, good food that might not be that great for you. So I have an interesting perspective on the cheat day, and then also is going to kind of go into his opinion of it as well. And I find the cheat day to be a little flawed, especially if you're an individual who's starting out. And so you're not enjoying the food that you're consuming, and all you're looking forward to is that cheat day. Next thing you know, that cheat day, which is your reward, your thing you're always looking forward to, you're now devaluing. You're not finding as much enjoyment in the foods you are consuming, which you should be consuming, one, for the purpose of your goals and for overall feeling better in health. But now I feel like this cheat day has become almost a bit of a punishment. And we can get into that a little more and the idea behind that. And the reason I say punishment is because again, you're devaluing what you're setting up throughout the whole week. If you are an individual who really can't have, a cheat meal, it is a true cheat day where you just blow your calories out the water.
Yeah, I mean, you're completely devaluing everything you did that entire week.
Exactly. All that hard work,
all the calorie restriction you did that entire week means nothing now.
Yep, you skyrocketed it, and then you're going into the next week, and so it becomes this cycle. And we'll get into it in a later episode, gut health, but that's a whole nother ball game in itself as far as the types of food and quality you eat, and what that then affects not only your body but your mood and your state of mind. And so that's why I have this opinion of the cheat day. Austin, go ahead and get into a little bit of how you see a benefit of a cheat day.
So this is where it's interesting. So I think cheat days are great, or not even cheat days. I'm talking cheat meals. They're great if you do it right, and if you're in a spot where you actually need one. Now, here's the cold hard truth. Most people don't need one. And to admit that now is great, because I know better now. I didn't know better. I lacked I lacked discipline. And so for me, I would want to take a cheat meal because frankly, I'm just like, oh, I just really want to eat food and I don't have the discipline to do what I need to do to get where I want to go. End of the day, end of the story. That's really what it is. However, now, cheat days for people that really need them though are great dieting tools. And they're great. So if I have you and I'm, having you do a cutting diet, right? We're trying to get you to do this, long cut. We've been cutting for a while. You haven't had a cheat day for a while. You haven't been, you starting to slow down a little bit in progress. Your calories are getting pretty low. Metabolically, we're starting to slow down a little bit here. What I might do is I might throw a cheat meal in there. So that way it's like, okay, get you something. We'll throw your calories up real quick a little bit here, kind of rev that metabolic engine, get you firing. And so that way we can kind of set up the next little phase of weight loss or fat loss here, because, everything's incremental, right? You got to look at cheat meals. They're kind of like as tips or as like tools, right? Like everything's in the tool shed. Like when I make adjustments with, people like clients' nutrition plans, I don't just do a bunch of things at once and say, okay, here we go. This is it. It's like, okay, your weight stalled out. Let's make a cardio change. Okay, cool. We figure that out. That worked. Let's not make a change. Then, oh, maybe it didn't work. Okay, now I'm going to make a food change. And now I'm at a spot where, okay, now like consistently low calories for a while. You've been doing a really good job. Like we're slowing down. Let's get that cheat day. See how you react. Most people usually react pretty well in that situation. So yeah, there's definitely a place for a cheat day or a cheat meal. Like I think sometimes like that's needed, or like, even like giving like refeed days of like higher carbs in certain meals. I definitely think that has a place. When you're in that spot of dieting, when you've, dieted down enough and you have those low calories, it provides that kind of like metabolic kickstarter to get you going a little bit again. Whereas like, people who are just starting dieting, if you just started dieting and you're like not even a month into your diet, you don't need a cheat day. If you just started dieting and you are over 20% body fat, if you're a man, you do not need a cheat day. Yeah, I know that's hard to hear. That would have been really hard to hear for me too, like a year ago. So I get that. But, at the end of the day, you need to look at like why certain things help or don't help you get where you're trying to go. And ultimately, I know he mentioned it earlier, but being consistent with what you're doing is why it's so important. I know, because it kind of goes off into tangent. Like there were a few things that he mentioned, like gut health. Gut health is, oh man, what you put in your body is so important, because what goes into your stomach, right? I'm not sure if you're aware of this, and this is probably super relevant. So I don't know. We're filming this episode 2 weeks in advance. So just a FYI. So right now we're still in lockdown and Corona, with dealing with this. Gyms aren't open. So I don't know what the picture is going to look like in 2 weeks from now. Maybe we'll be back to more normal life. But in the event that we're not, we're still in lockdown and everybody's still getting sick or whatever, 70% of your immune system is in your stomach. That intestinal lining. There's bacteria in there. There's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. So that's why, like, every time you take like an antibiotic, you go to the doctor and they give you an antibiotic, you need to consume some sort of probiotic to help promote the good gut flora in your stomach, because those antibiotics are going to kill that bacteria, because it's not really specific. We have good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. In trying to kill the bad bacteria, it's also going to kill the good bacteria as well. So you need to make sure that you're replenishing that good bacteria in your stomach. So with that being said, though, everything that we eat is going to affect that microbiome in our stomach. So long story short, you put consistently shitty food in your stomach, it's going to affect your gut microbiome, which not only is going to affect your immune health and your immune system, but there's also strong ties between your gut microbiome and your mental health status. A lot of times, that by itself is a completely different episode that we need to tackle, and I'm not even going to dive into that right now. If you have more questions about that, though, please seriously hit us up and we will explain that a little bit more to you. But just know that there is serious ties with that. There's so many different things that it comes down to, though, on a daily basis, like your consistent actions. Like, diets don't work if you're not being consistent. So, if you have a super like awesome metabolism, you see these people like The Rock, you know what I mean? The Rock has these epic cheat meals, like however many pizzas, insane amounts of like pancakes, whatever. Everybody sees that and they're like, oh wow, yeah, like I can do that. It's like, no, you can't. You and The Rock don't have the same metabolism. Or like, you see these like bodybuilders that are like super shredded or whatever, and they're like, oh, this is my cheat meal. And it's like, okay, that's theirs, not yours. Because you two don't have the same metabolism. You're not in the same spot. So it's like they can do that and probably end up getting leaner, and you do that and you'll probably negate your entire week and a half of progress that you just made.
Exactly, man. It just goes back.
Just because it's working for some people doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Exactly. It goes to that topic. You just got to know yourself. And that all starts from just, getting that base of education, and like we mentioned in the training episode, putting it into application, seeing what benefits you have from it and what you don't, what you're noticing you are struggling with, what foods you don't enjoy, what foods you don't react well to. Briefly on just the microbiome and gut health, I always struggled with terrible acne. And I have since I was really young. And one thing I noticed when I finally dialed in the foods I was consuming, I've had a huge effect on the consistency of both the acne, but also how often I was getting it and how severe it was. And so there's just a lot of things that your nutrition can do other than just benefit your training. Obviously, most of your listeners probably, because I want to get something out of this for my training. Well, without a doubt, if you are going to break down like the most important factors into your training, me and Austin have kind of talked about this. We use this pie chart reference. There's nutrition, which takes up this huge chunk. Then we'll say recovery, which is mostly sleep. You can maybe add
but also managing your stress responses too, like not just sleep, but managing stress responses, because your body can't actually physically recover when it's in a high stress state all the time. So if you have super high stress and your cortisol is active, or really high, you're not going to be able to recover. So not only getting good enough sleep, but also making sure that your stress responses and everything like that is on point too.
Yeah, exactly. And cortisol, being the stress hormone of the body, that gets released from a huge amount of things. So that last sliver of that big pie that we've kind of talked about is training. And it is extremely important, but it is the stimulus. It's what creates the response. Everything else gets done in how you address your nutrition and your recovery. So are you managing your stress? Are you getting adequate sleep? Are you putting good quality foods into your body that your blood can then uptake and use to replenish those muscles, all that tissue you just damaged? Because essentially when you're training, that's what you're doing. You're damaging tissue so it can then repair, so you can make an adaptation. Exactly. And so I think that's what everyone thinks. If I'm in the gym training, if I'm hitting it hard, what's like, however hard you're hitting your training, your recovery and what you consume in your body should be tenfold. Because what we've really noticed, and we kind of alluded to in the training episode, was the training style has an impact on, yes, maybe what we're specifically trying to do, but the nutrition and recovery, what governed that or what pushed that forward. And what we've noticed in the past is, when our nutrition wasn't on point, when we were less disciplined, when we were more likely to, I feel like doing this, it's the social norm, I'll have a drink, I'll go get pancakes every other day. We noticed that, like the progress stalls out. And now what is very interesting is that for us, is the point where our nutrition has been really on point and really dialed in, and things just keep going better and better.
It's true. And I've never felt as good as I do now. I'm definitely the leanest I've ever been. I mean, and even like on the cheat meal point, like I've only had 2 cheat meals since January. We're in May.
Yeah.
We're in May. I've only had 2 cheat meals, and they've both been Shake Shack. So don't judge me. I love my Shack stack and my milkshake. So bug off. But it works because I noticed that each time though, I've been able to eat that meal, and then the next day I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely looking a little bit leaner, and then like my weight is pretty consistently like about the same, if not even maybe slightly less. So, but I'm at a spot now where I'm like, oh, okay, maybe a cheat meal, like a scheduled cheat meal, isn't going to hurt me. Whereas like months prior to this, had I done a cheat meal just out of the blue, it would have definitely not worked that way, because metabolically I wasn't in a position where I would benefit from that. If anything, it would actually just hurt my progress, and it would take it even longer to get to this point.
That's so true. I think I've noticed is the more consistent I've become, the less I have, desired those quote unquote cheat meal foods. And for individuals who work at an office setting, that can sometimes be a huge challenge. I know my office, they bring in pizza and chocolates and cake and coffee cake almost like weekly. And, it's socially acceptable. You go enjoy, and it's super nice of them. I love them all for it. But I noticed that every time I did partake and enjoy, one, the quality of the work I immediately had to go back and do significantly declined, because my brain is now it's not focused on working. It's my gut. It's just focused on processing this food. Sugar levels are spiking, all of the stuff happening. But I noticed like I stopped wanting how it made me feel made me less interested in then eating the pizza and then having the, yummy food. I feel better now knowing that I'm staying consistent with it. And I think that's an interesting place you have to get to. And it might take some failure. It might take some cheat meals that maybe you didn't deserve, or going through some stuff until you really get to a point where you're like, wow, like I see the value. Now I see the enjoyment out of the food I'm consuming. It's not a diet anymore.
Yeah. I mean, on that like note, it took me like 3 years of actually like giving a shit about my nutrition to get to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm not taking unnecessary cheat meals. I'm not shoving my face with some extra food, or I'm not like, I'm weighing my stuff out. I'm being like super on point, and, good and bad, because the bad part is like, damn, I feel amazing. Why haven't I been doing this sooner? And the good part is like, damn, I feel amazing. This is great. Like, this is the best I've ever felt in my life. So, I can't understate how important that is, but also just being consistent on a daily basis. Like I always allude back to like college, right? You have the people that they go hard in the weight room Monday through Friday, but then they go hard at the bar Thursday through Saturday. And it's like, look, I'm not hating, on drinking your beer. That's fine. Or like, going out. That's fine. Do your thing. Like, live your life. Enjoy it. But just also be aware that everything that you're doing is not really – be aware of what you're doing, the actions you're taking, and whether they're helping or hurting you getting to where you want to be. Because a lot of times people just don't think about that. And then they wonder, well, why am I not where I'm at? Well, are your actions consistently lining up with wanting to do that? Like if you're trying to cut, but you go to the bar like twice a week, well, you're probably not going to do really well in your cut, but
exactly. Hey. Or you might even be taking away from that week's prior workouts and then hurting your recovery process as you do go into a weekend, or like we've mentioned before, blowing out your calories. So now you're just furthering your weight loss goals by affecting them by like continually having to lose more weight because you just keep falling into these cycles. And so one of the biggest things you can try and do is, if you're falling, you realize you really don't enjoy your diet, quote unquote, recognize where a negative association is coming from it. Why don't you enjoy it? What don't you dislike about it? And start to address then those reasons. Without getting too deep into that.
Or even just like change the way that you're cooking your food,
Exactly.
Like you may not enjoy baking your chicken or cooking it on the stove, but if you grill it, you might love it. Or like, you might not enjoy eating like egg whites, but if you make like hard-boiled eggs and take out the yolk, like you might enjoy that more, It's one of those things you never know until you try something different. And, there's tons of recipes. I mean, at this point, right, with technology and the internet, there's so many different recipes for like different healthy foods and things that like there's almost no excuse to not be able to find something that you enjoy at this point.
Absolutely.
At that point, if you don't, it's really just because you're not trying. So, which I get that,
Yeah, and be mindful of what you are using to heighten the taste of your food. A lot of people fall into having to use high calorie marinades or seasoning that has a crap ton of sodium. Depending on your situation, that might have an effect.
Yeah, well, you know what though, I will say this. If you are somebody that goes to the gym frequently and you do train hard, I'm not going to say you can't eat too much sodium, but it would be really hard for you to eat too much sodium. Like my go-to is Old Bay on all my ground turkey. Unreal. I would die for that meal. But, I'm not concerned about sodium because I train hard and my body needs it. But, if you're not going to the gym and you're not training hard or you're not doing anything that requires your body like actively sweating, you maybe don't need so much sodium.
Exactly. I'm a lemon pepper and paprika guy myself. So I'm usually separate.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So we'll touch on supplements a little bit here too, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. Supplements. So this is funny. I love supplements. I've been using supplements for a while. I mean, my supplement journey started with creatine and beta alanine, and I thought I was such a badass because I would take that before I went to the gym, and I felt like it was for sure making me big. Creatine's great though. I do like it, and it's the most widely researched supplement on the market that you can get. So I do recommend that, but that's not like what the point of this topic is. A lot of times, and I fell into this trap a little while, marketing is good. A lot of people's marketing is really good. And most of the time you really don't need a whole lot of supplements. That's a pretty bold statement from the guy that makes supplements. If you didn't know, I make supplements. I formulate the supplements for Subject Zero Supplements, and, not to go plug my own brand, but I'm telling you, don't buy the supplements if you don't need them. Like there's a lot of times things that you can like do with your diet that you don't need to buy, like fat burners, right? Like I don't have a fat burner, and you probably won't catch me making a fat burner because frankly, most of them don't work and most of the ingredients don't really do anything. So unfortunately, I mean, maybe some ingredients help, but they're not going to do more than just eating the right way and moving more. That's the best thing you can do. But, don't circumvent the hard work that you need to do with supplements. That's not the answer. Now, granted, don't get me wrong. Like if you eat a ton of protein a day, like I know I eat like 260 grams of protein a day. So for me, being able to like have at least some of that protein coming from like a protein shake is super valuable. And it also adds like an extra flavor. You know, I'm on a super restrictive diet. So for me, that's an extra flavor that I'm getting that I'm like, ooh, this is great because this is something different. So I can get something a little more variety into my diet by having a different flavor of protein powder. Right. But you know, don't get all of your protein from protein powder. Like I would say less than 30% of it should come from protein powder if we're being real. Try to prioritize real food. That's going to be the most important thing. Multivitamins are good too. I mean, fish oil, that's fine. I mean, unless you eat enough salmon to justify not needing to take like fish oil, like that's fine. But I think fish oil is solid. You know, pre-workouts, you don't really need it. I mean, I'm not going to say no though, because I love pre-workout. I'm like addicted to pre-workout. So I'm not going to say no pre-workout, but just don't rely on supplements. I know, like, you know, once upon a time when I was in undergrad and even a little bit of grad school, I would buy all these different types of supplements under the assumptions that would help me get to the next level. And then I'm like, damn, none of that helped. But you know what did? Eating right. Damn. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
So true, man. Just a quick little background story for everyone. Ever since I've known Austin, he's been into supplements, or even in our earlier days, we actually were making supplements. And Austin formulated a pre-workout that took over our campus weight room, and even got around Pennsylvania a little bit.
Yeah, Rob Bailey tried it, and he liked it.
Yeah. So
we were so close. Dana shut it down. It down. For those that don't know, I took my pre-workout to like the Warhouse gym, and Rob Bailey drank it and he liked it, and we were talking, you know, maybe something cool would happen, right? And Dana's like, no, we already make subs with my face on it. Why do we need another one? It's like, damn, my life could have changed, but it's okay. I'm happy where I'm at. Actually, everything happens for a reason, and now I'm making supplements, and I'm like happy with my ability of what I'm able to make, which I'm super thankful for that.
Exactly. That's huge, man. That, you know, just goes further on that, like that process of just things happen for a reason, and we wouldn't be here talking about this to folks, you know, had that not. And it also, you know, leads into, you know, let's really look at what a supplement is. A supplement, it's a supplementation of something that you are thus lacking from the nutrition you already take in. So if you're looking at supplements before you're dialing in your nutrition, you're going about it backwards. You're trying to fill in something because of marketing or mainstream social media or something you see that everyone's taking, when you haven't even addressed the quality of foods you're putting in. Are you even looking at those? And how much of it? So just remember, a supplement is just that. It's a supplementation of something you're already not getting enough of.
It's okay. I fell victim to that trap.
Oh, we all did.
You know, I've spent way too much money on supplements. There's actually like certain like categories of supplements that I don't even like buy anymore. I'll buy some, you know, because I find them to be generally worth the money. Just a quick rundown in the event that you're curious what I deem to be worth the money. My top 5. Quality protein powder, making sure it's coming from quality protein sources. I personally love Diamantized ISO. The Cocoa Pebbles flavor absolutely slaps. One of my favorite proteins I've ever had. Yeah, highly recommend. My next best recommendation would be a quality multivitamin. And by quality multivitamin, I mean like actually paying attention to like the ingredients that are put in there. They're not like some like cheapo filler ingredient nonsense. Like if you buy a quality one, it's generally worth its weight in gold. Follow that up with a quality fish oil, you know, making sure it's coming from a quality food sourcing. That's also super important. Vitamin D, that's number 4. Vitamin D. So chances are, now, ironically, because of this quarantine, everybody's probably getting way more vitamin D exposure because we're going outside to escape being in our house all day, which is great because we need the sunlight. Our body synthesizes vitamin D from the sunlight. So that's great. But most of the time, like if you live, I would generally say in the upper half of the United States, chances are you're not going outside as much and you're not getting as much sunlight exposure, especially if you're up in like the Northeast or the Northwest. So it's really important to make sure that you're supplementing with vitamin D to make sure that you're getting enough. It's really important for, calcium absorption in your body, but it's also super important for, synthesizing hormones and cholesterol. So vitamin D, that's also super important. And then the last one that I consider to be essentially important is vitamin K, because if you're taking vitamin D, the reason why I say vitamin K is because vitamin D is not specific in where it stores the calcium in your body. So it will store it not just in your bones, but it'll store it in your arteries, which causes your arteries to stiffen up. Whereas like vitamin K is like, not too thick, and pulls the calcium out of your arteries towards your bones and helps you. It's more selective. It helps you store it there. So realistically, if you're taking a vitamin D product, you shouldn't take it without vitamin K, because it's ultra important that you're doing that. Like, don't make your arteries harder than they need to be. You're being stressed in general does that enough. So, make sure that those, once again, I'll review my top 5: quality protein, quality multivitamin, quality fish oil, quality vitamin D with vitamin K. I don't sell any single one of those products, but those are the most 5 important products that you can have.
Hey, man, that's crazy. And I think that just shows you, too, aside from maybe protein or a multivitamin, fish oil's even gotten bigger now. None of those are really like the mainstream products that are available through, supplements, especially you're not going to see those as the top products on bodybuilding.com, top products on a lot of these supplement sites. You just know that they are really trying to get your money, get you to spend a lot on something maybe you don't need or you could address through the actual food you are intaking. That's something to be very good to be mindful of. A couple of just reading resources you can use, some stuff I've been delving into. We'll talk to Austin also. The New Vitamin Bible has been really nice. Earl Mandel's The New Vitamin Bible. It pretty much just delves into all things vitamins. If you don't know much about vitamins, you really should. There's 2 types, water soluble and fat soluble, and how they interact, with your body. One of my favorite is a bodybuilder's nutrition. So it was written by Franco Colombo. This book's a little dated, but it's interesting to see just like the styles that they were doing back then and how things have changed now. Like they were even talking about protein coming from venison, and horse meat also, just eating an absurd amount of horses. And then getting further into the Psychobiotic Revolution and Colon Health. Those are 2 books, the Psychobiotic Revolution and Colon Health, because we know so much now that how the food you intake affects, not only your training, but your overall mood. And as we mentioned, we will be getting into that even further in a later episode. If you have any more questions, things you think we missed from this topic, stuff you'd like to hear, please hit us up. Again, that is Iron Breed Performance. The link will be down here on the Anchor app. And you can always catch me, the Frenchman, at GERARD LETEE. I can't even spell my name. LETENDRE. Gerard Letondois. You'll see a big red beard. And awesome. Give it to you one more time.
You can catch me at _Zekman. Find us on the Iron Breed Performance page. My album recommendation for you this week. Ooh. I don't have a book, so I'm going to hit you with an album. It is called The Passion of the Heist 2 by I Am Abomination. And so I know a lot of you know that I'm a metalhead. And just so you know, there's not a whole lot of screaming in this album, but this album is phenomenal and I cannot stop listening to it.
That sounds good. I'm going to have to listen to that one.
Oh, no, it is so good. Oh my gosh. I like, even thinking about it now, I'm just like, man, I want to I don't even know what I want to do, but I'm excited. So
That's awesome, man. So that's it for us, folks. Go ahead out there, stay positive during these times and focus on your nutrition. What are you putting into your body? And always, you can catch us next time.
Thanks, everyone. It's been a real thanks for listening to the Iron Breed Podcast.